Thank you. Let's get started. Thank you. Sorry we're late. This is our pre-meeting for September 5th. Mr. City Manager, we have the judge here, I see, for our quarterly report.
Yes, sir. And she looks like she's very raring.
She's raring to go.
And ready.
Judge Martinez, it's nice to see you.
Nice to see you all. Mayor, counselors. So we've done a few things since I was here the last time. We had our July and August liaison meetings. September set for next Monday at noon. We're going to meet with Mr. Masterson and kind of go over timelines for the evaluation. So that way I know when to kind of get mine submitted, and we're just going to kind of establish a timeline after that. In July.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
In July, I did the SIM meeting with Chief Justice Fox. Vice Mayor Pacheco was there. That was a good meeting to attend. Kind of got a good understanding of what the state's looking like, what they're going to be doing for the pilot project in Gillette. Something that maybe we could look at, very applicable to the municipal court. We're working right now with Mercer House as a potential solution to the mental illness and homelessness. We recently worked with them to make a placement in Cheyenne for an individual, which did not end up working out. So we got him back here to Casper. So we're going to have to take a different route there. But it has opened up quite a few doors as far as different opportunities, placements that we can look at sending people to kind of get the help they need based on their specific problems. We've been working with the Self-Help Center as we have continued. We've done that in the last 5 years, but we're now trying to get some new steps taken with CWCC, looking at more in-depth mental health evaluations, psychological evaluations, and seeing what we can kind of do in that avenue with them. We've seen a very drastic increase in homeless, increase in number of mentally ill individuals and out of the county homeless from across the country. When we do the jail videos, if there's somebody in on a camping public intox, something like that I haven't seen before, I just ask them a series of questions. You know, how long have you been in Casper? What are you doing in Casper? What's your plan for staying in Casper? Those kinds of things. And so I get some information by asking those questions. And we have seen a steady increase in people coming from across the country to Casper. I start a judicial writing class 18th, which I'm really excited about. I think that'll be a really good class to take. I've done a lot of other classes, but nothing in writing since I was in law school. So I'm really excited to do that with other judges from across the nation. We sent out and established a new bond schedule that was effective July 1st that had all our new ordinances in it, and that showed the increases that the state bond schedule had. And so far that's been smooth in its implementation. We did restructure the theft charges from a first offense to a fifth offense. So that way I'm clear on the advising. We're clear on where they're charging so that we can then determine if it's appropriate for it to be in municipal court, or if Ms. Brown is going to then request the district attorney's office to take a look at it. And then just overall making sure that the defendants get appropriate advisements. So that's kind of what's been going on this last quarter, and we got some good plans for the fall. We have a new court security individual coming on in a couple weeks, and that's really exciting, and hoping that that might speed things up as far as our court processes due to the increase in number of all these individuals that I stated. In years past, we've seen 5, 7 people at the jail Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and we are now seeing 20 and upwards a day in the jail Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We messed with the schedule a little bit to see if that would try to relieve some of the pressure. It didn't seem to really matter what we did as far as days. So we're just trying to figure that out, determining whether we need to push our 9 a.m.s back to 9:30 or 10 o'clock, to keep us on court schedule. But right now, we're trying to just hope that if we get our new court security person in, that we could maybe see more efficiency at the jail to then kind of speed up our times up there to get us back on schedule. So we're playing with a few different things, a couple different ideas, and then ultimately, if none of that works, then we're gonna bump our time back so that everybody's not waiting in the lobby and we're on 30 minutes behind. So, because everybody's time is valuable, and I don't think that that's very respectful of the public's time either for us to do that, but it's gonna be short-lived, so.
Would you mind speaking to, when you, like, for instance, the one you sent to Cheyenne, are we on the hook for that financially, as a city, or?
So that was worked out through Mercer, and my understanding, and the transport back was all we were responsible for. Basically, that was worked out with healthcare for the homeless, whatever insurance they may have, whatever resources Mercer had. So it was just the transport.
That's awesome.
So
Anybody have any questions for the judge? Kyle?
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks, Judge. You mentioned an increase in the individuals that you're seeing that identify as homeless or mentally ill. Could you quantify that for us, please? I hope the chief yells out and corrects me if I'm misinforming, but I thought in our last homelessness task force meeting that we had last week, they had mentioned that they saw essentially a doubling in the amount of homeless individuals from 10 to 20% of the makeup of the people that are being incarcerated. Is that similar?
I would say that's.
So a year previously, 10% of our incarcerated individuals would have identified as homelessness or identified as homeless. This year. It's closer to the 20%.
Yeah.
area.
Yeah, 20 to 25, I'd say.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming. All right, Mr. City Manager, let's move on to lessons learned on the river restoration grant, please.
Yes, sir. Essentially what we want to do here in this particular stage of the meeting is notify you of a grant that we are subject to receiving and make you aware of what responsibilities we have there. And so with that, if I could turn the time over to Ms. Martinez to walk us through that, that'd be great.
Certainly. Jolene, welcome.
Mayor, Council, we have been granted an award from the Wyoming Game and Fish Commission, should you decide to accept it, for a document called Lessons Learned. About a year ago, our main designer from Stantec, TC Dinkins, did a workshop for Army Corps of Engineers, unbeknownst to us, but it was just basically things on river restoration. And he talked about some discoveries that he's made in designing. Game and Fish staff was at that meeting. They were astounded, I guess is a good word, and thought it was compelling, and called me and said, you have to hear this. We would like to get a lessons learned document, and we need to document what's going on the North Platte River restoration program here, the riparian area and the river, because it's not only applicable to the North Platte River, we believe it's applicable to stream restoration throughout Wyoming, and we really want to get this documented. And subsequently, they said we are going to apply to our Game and Fish Commission for a grant for the city of Casper. That has come through, and they're offering it to us to get something in place to document lessons learned.
Is there a match involved, and how much is the grant?
Grant is for $20,000. There is no match involved. We would not put any money into it except for incidental stuff like the costs of a meeting or putting a meeting together. But all the hard costs of doing this project would be borne by the grant.
Questions, concerns? Okay. Are you looking for direction on this, or?
Mr. Mayor, we just wanted to make sure that you and the council were aware of this effort, and in that it'll be coming to your formal agenda here, sir.
I don't know that I would dare not vote for it with Jolene when it comes to the river stuff.
Mayor, it will be, it's on the agenda tonight to approve, should you, and thank you for that faith in us.
You're welcome. Thank you. We're almost got up on time. Look at us go. Sole source purchase, LN Curtis.
Mr. Mayor, this is an equipment purchase on the part of the fire department. that given its size and the request that it be a sole source purchase, we wanted to be sure you had the opportunity to ask questions in a forum of this nature versus on the floor where this will come up. And so for that, I'd asked the fire department to walk us through that a little bit. Chief Spicer can help us with that.
Awesome. Chief, this is?
Evening, Mayor, Councilors. Like I said, in fall 22, we put a task force together to find the best tool for our departments. The guys did a great job. They evaluated 5 tools. There was one upstart company that they evaluated as well, but hands down, First Tools were the best tool on the market for us. And just given the dynamic of the structure of that corporate company, they have territories. So even if we were to put this out for RFP, we'd only have one vendor allowed to quote this product for us. So that's why we're requesting a sole source purchase.
Would you mind explaining to the council what it is actually and what it does for you?
So this is our new extrication tools. Currently, we have hydraulic tools, which are hydraulically based. They require a power head to supply power to a extrication tool for vehicle extrication, forcible entry, lifting, that sort of things. The new line are all battery powered. And we went into it somewhat skeptical, thinking they'd be able to perform like the former hydraulic ones, and they definitely can. So we went through that process. This will get us 10 tools, 20 batteries, and 20 chargers.
Mayor, Councilors, specifically these tools, like you see us on a lot of these car accidents, the tools used to open the cars and get the victims out. These are the tools that we're talking about using and purchasing. We use them for a variety of different things, but just so you understand, that's the main purpose of them. So the rest of the public knows as well.
So there'll be two at each station, I'm assuming?
There'd be at least one set of a combi tool on at the outlying stations, the pumps for if they need to immediately access a patient. Typically they do patient care first, and the rescue or the truck company comes in and does the actual extrications. But yeah, we'll have a full complement of the biggest cutter, biggest spreader, biggest ram on the truck and the rescue, and a combi tool at every outlying station.
Cool.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, gentlemen, for the information. Apologies if I missed this. What's the benefit of establishing sole source purchasing?
No benefit necessarily, just the dynamics of this one, because the task force evaluated the tools, and these were a clear front runner. The Hearst tools, Homatra was probably second, but not a close second. And so one, it's tool specific, and then we have a vendor dynamic in our region where I call corporate, and Ellen Curtis is the only dealer allowed to sell in our region. So like I said, if we put it out for RFP, like oftentimes this equipment can be supplied by multiple vendors in our region. It's not the case in this dynamic. So Ellen Curtis is the only vendor for this product in our region. So if we put it out as an RFP, the other tools wouldn't meet the spec. We'd end up in the same place. Right.
And for the public's benefit, we're talking about how much money?
The exact amount, $147,385.80.
I'm assuming we're budgeted for that.
We are.
Very good. Sir.
Something that I would also probably, if I'm wrong, let me know. But by these being battery powered rather than hydraulic, they aren't going to have to screw with all of the hydraulic hoses, all of that and everything else. And to a point, it eliminates a lot of the trip hazards and some of those types of things that these guys would have to be dealing with out on an accident someplace. So
It saves time as well. I'm assuming.
Yeah, absolutely. Improve our efficiencies. The biggest maintenance part of the tools we currently have has been the power plants, the hydraulic systems on them. So that's where we've seen the failures in the past few years on our current tools. Yeah.
and they're not going to create a hazardous spill with their hydraulic fluid.
True story. That's true also.
So.
All right, very good. Any other questions for the chief? Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Mr. City Manager, we're rolling. Ash Street Building.
Mr. Mayor, councilors, we have been approached by what we would consider some serious suitors as it relates to the Ash Street building. That building is the facility that the city owns, that used to be an accounting office that's located, south and west of City Hall. Currently, in fact, IT is stationed there during our transition period and so forth. We would like to respond by requesting your authorization to put out what we call an RFB, a request for bids, that would allow the public and potential purchasers, if you will, to submit sealed proposals that we would, on a date certain, open publicly and bring to you a recommendation should we have any responsible bidders, if you will, that would like to make a run at purchasing that building from the city. Were it not for what we perceive to be as a more serious approach to wanting to purchase this building, we wouldn't bring you this proposal to just try to test the market and see what's available right now. So our request is that you authorize us to move forward with an RFP, and we would bring back any recommendations, if there will be any, like I said, on a date certain.
Do we, or will we at some point obtain an appraisal to make sure that the bids are within line of what the building's actually worth?
Mr. Mayor, it just so happens that not too long ago, we had an appraisal done on that property. And so we're ready to go with an appraisal as a part of the bid package.
Cool. Any questions, anyone? No? Okay, all right, very good.
Right, so,
Yeah, I think we're good to go, right?
okay,
You're just seeking bids right now, so,
that's it.
yep, very good. All right, let's move on to agenda review.
Mr. Mayor, councilors, I don't really have anything to bring to your attention.
Is there anything glaring on the agenda anybody needs to bring to attention?
Mayor,
Sir,
I noticed that we are allocating 100 and I think it's 80 some odd $1,000 for the Bryan Stock Trail to Evansville Road. Is this the one from Dump Road over to tying into the road over by the cemetery in Evansville?
Mr. Mayor, I'd feel better if I could defer that question to Ms. Lopez, if that's okay.
wait, what?
Ms. Lopez does not look excited about answering that question.
I'm sure that I'm familiar with the item that you're talking about for a roadway extension, is that being?
Basically, it is to engineering design, bring it up to city standards, et cetera, is what it said in the,
Mr. Mayor, I'm familiar with what council, I got confused because I was thinking.
Zulema,
pathway.
thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, my apologies. This is for the road, Mr. Mayor, Counselor, that connects Bryan Stock Trail to the wastewater treatment plant and so forth. So it's the engineering and oversight with regard to that. capital
okay,
project.
it's right there just past, where you see all the Knife River trucks going in and out hauling
exactly.
gravel.
Right.
Okay,
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. I thought I heard pathway in there. That threw me off. So my
I might have, I'm sorry.
no, that's probably my fault.
But that's what I was trying to find out was whether it was that road or what I thought was our new road that comes off the corner of Dump Road that goes over and ties in to, okay.
Yeah, no,
All right, with that said, we're gonna take about a 3-minute break and then we'll get started on our regularly scheduled meeting.
thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, because I wanted to know why we were spending money on a road
Kyle, we're gonna start our regularly scheduled council meeting. Today is Wednesday, September 5th. Before we begin this evening, I'd like to remind everyone to silence your cell phones. Council meetings are also live streamed on the city's YouTube channel. I now call the September 5th, 2023 regular council meeting to order. The chair would entertain a motion to by minute action, excuse the absence of Councilor Bond. Oh, he's here. Oh, he is?
Yeah, I'm here, Mayor.
All right, thank you, sir. I beg your pardon. All council members are present. So let's please join Councilor Engebretson in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Chair would entertain a motion to by minute action, the minutes of the August 15th, 2023 regular council meeting as published in the Casper Star Tribune on August 26th, 2023.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Vice Mayor Pacheco, seconded by Councilor Kathy. Any amendments? Any abstentions or nay votes? All voting aye.
Aye.
Please record the vote. Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion to approve by minute action the September 5th, 2023 general bills and claims as audited by City Manager Napier.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Councilor Engebretson, seconded by Councilor Pollock. Excuse me, any abstentions or nay votes? All voting aye?
Aye.
Please record the vote. Thank you. At this time, out front, facing the council, I would like to welcome the member from Jason's Friends and the Olivia Caldwell Foundation to the meeting tonight to discuss Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. Please come forward and introduce yourselves and anyone else here for the proclamation this evening. Do we have anyone here from Jason's Friends or Olivia Caldwell Foundation? Hi.
Hello.
I'm gonna have you step right up here if you don't mind, and we'll face the council. That way the streaming picks you up.
Okay,
And please introduce yourself to the council.
I'm Lisa Eads, and I am the president and co-founder of Jason's Friends Foundation.
Very nice.
And I'm Katie Burchett, and I am the CEO and founder of Olivia Caldwell.
Very nice. Well, these are your proclamations, which I will read, but I will allow you to follow along if you like, of course. You got a handful there. You need help? I like babies. I'll hold her in case she gets heavy. Whereas an estimated 9,910 children younger than 15 and about 5,280 teens ages 15 to 19 in the United States will be diagnosed with cancer this year. An estimated 1,040 deaths from cancer will occur in the United States this year in children younger than 15. An estimated 550 deaths from cancer will occur in teens ages 15 to 19. And cancer affects children and young adults differently from cancer that arises later in life, as their bodies are still developing, and even the side effects of the cancer treatments themselves can cause more harm to their maturing systems and organs than they do adults. And parents have reported that they resigned or reduced their work hours after childhood cancer diagnosis, excuse me, and have experienced financial instability due to rising medical bills, added cost to travel, and September is observed as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. Now, therefore, I, Bruce Nell, Mayor for the city of Casper, Wyoming, do hereby proclaim September 2023. I'll explain. Childhood Cancer Awareness Month in this community and support programs such as Jason's Friends and Olivia Caldwell Foundation that provide support and advocacy for young cancer patients and their families. Now, everybody knows I'm a boob. It comes to stuff like this, but I have to tell you, my very own son got cancer at age 12, and Jason's Friends came to our aid and helped us with a place to stay in Denver and bought gifts for my children. So what you do for the community is incredible. And it's personally touched me, and I thank you so much. So this means a lot to me. So thank you. Appreciate it. Please show those off with pride.
All right.
And you're welcome to say whatever.
Well, that's tough. But I'm so glad we're able to help you, and just to let you know and others know that Jason's Friends is currently working with 152 families throughout the state of Wyoming that currently have children up to age 21 with cancer. There's no other organization doing what we do throughout the state of Wyoming. We're providing them with financial assistance to get where they need to go for treatment, which is typically Denver, Salt Lake, or much further, because there, as you know, it is no primary cancer treatment in our state.
That's right.
But then we're paying things back home for the long haul: house payments, rent payments, utility payments, car payments, insurance payments, helping with medical deductibles. Currently added a mental health piece to it. So I mean, we're doing a lot to support the family, Wyoming specifically, and there for the long haul. So thank you, and just be aware, yeah, September's our month to try to get the word out a little bit more.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Olivia Caldwell Foundation really focuses on funding pediatric cancer research as what we do for childhood cancer. So to date, we've given $785,000 to research in the last 9 years, and we'll give another big check here in November. And that research that we funded has actually led to the cure for the cancer that killed my daughter. So it's a very bittersweet thing, but we're grateful to be able to keep her memory going and support other people in the research so that they hopefully do not have to lose their children.
Well, God bless you both.
Thank you.
Oh, it's a tough one for me. At this time, I'd like to welcome. Would you mind doing this one? Sure. I think I need a minute.
At this time, we'd like to welcome members from the JR Hunts for Life, Ropes and Roses Therapy Services, the Natrona County Suicide Prevention Task Force, and Angel Mountain Media.
Oh, thank you so much.
You guys want to come on down? Maybe switch. There you go. I just realized that when I saw it. Thank you. You can hold it right there and I'll just read the proclamation and then we'll go from there if that sounds good. All right, whereas September is National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month and is intended to help reduce further loss of life through awareness, education, treatment, and informing the community about the resources available to us. And suicidal thoughts can affect anyone, regardless of age, gender, race, orientation, income level, religion, or background. And suicide is one of the most unsettling and tragic events a family and a community can experience. And according to the CDC, each year more than 49,000 people die by suicide in the United States. It is one of the leading causes of death in the U.S., with Wyoming being the #1 state in the nation for suicide losses per capita in 2022, and is consistently in the top 3 states. And in Natrona County, there have been 18 deaths by suicide in the first 7 months of 2023. And the city of Casper, Wyoming chooses to publicly state and place our full support behind local educators, mental health professionals, athletic coaches, PAC leaders, police officers, friends, and families as partners in supporting the community by simply being available to one another. And JR's Hunt for Life, Ropes and Roses Therapy Services, Natrona County Suicide Prevention Task Force, and Angel Mountain Media are committed to working to eliminate the stigma of suicide, bringing awareness to prevent deaths by suicide and educate the community about the warning signs of suicide and ultimately reduce the rate of suicide. Now, therefore, I, Bruce Snell, Mayor of the City of Casper, Wyoming do hereby proclaim the month of September 2023 as National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. You guys want to introduce yourselves and what you do real quick? That'd be great.
Sure. So I'm Carol Steven, and I am the owner and lead therapist at Ropes and Roses Therapy Services. We are an occupational therapy outpatient clinic who specializes in helping people with mental health challenges using nature-based and animal-assisted therapy. So this summer, we started a program due to our involvement with the Suicide Prevention Task Force, noting that the rise of suicide rates with teenage girls was rising at 3 times the rate, which means they were almost caught up to the rate of adolescent men. And so we started a program this summer called Horses for Hope for adolescent girls to be able to come out and learn some new relationship building skills, self-confidence, positive self-talk, and anxiety reducing exercises to help prepare them to get ready for the school year, which isn't always a positive thing for all kids. So that's who we are. We have a team of, I have another therapist on staff. I have 13 four-legged therapists on staff. So I have 3 miniature horses, 2 ponies, and 8 big horses. But anyway, that's who I am.
Thanks, Carol.
I'm Cindy Schneider with Angel Mountain Media, and I play a support role for both Ropes and Roses and JR's Hunt for Life. I want to mention on September 22nd, we will be teaching QPR for ages 10 years old and up out at Ropes and Roses, and a chance for people to meet the therapy horses. JR's Hunt for Life just launched the 3rd season of a podcast called Safe Talk, which is a suicide prevention podcast that goes out to the world through every possible podcast site. And it's a real honor to be a part of both of these organizations. I'm also on the Suicide Prevention Task Force and have been very grateful for all of the good work for the agencies on the task force. So thank you.
I'm Jenny Hunter. I'm the founder and president of JR's Hunt for Life. This is Jim Hunter, my husband. We're JR Hunter's parents. We lost JR to suicide. Anyway, we are a global nonprofit. On our support page of Facebook, we have over 18,000 global members that are all there because of this purpose. Either they are suicidal, they have been, or they have lost someone to suicide, and we have all those people to support everyone. We do collaborate with Ropes and Roses and Angel Mountain, as well as the Suicide Prevention Task Force. Lately, we have been calling for a collaboration globally of people that want to prevent suicide, that want to support other people, that are willing to be there for people. And we've had a lot of response to that globally. We reach out to many countries. They reach out to us. We say, I cannot tell you how many lives from suicide just from being there for people. So thank you very much. And I'm happy to say you're now all a part of the collaborative that will be helping us to support people and save lives. Thank you.
Jenny and Jim, I apologize for not being able to get to that for you. But God bless you all. Thank you. Thank you for doing that, Mr. Vice Mayor. No problem. Now's the time. We invite anyone in the audience who wishes to speak with the council to come forward. This portion of the meeting is dedicated to the public. to allow you time to voice your concerns. Therefore, the council will take communications under advisement. If we choose to respond, we may do so at a later time. Please state your name, direct all questions and comments to the mayor and only the mayor. No personal obscenities or threats will be tolerated. Council will not respond to personnel matters. These will be referred to our city manager. If council chooses to address these matters, it may be done at the introduction of measures and proposals by the council. Presentations will be limited to 5 minutes. No time exceptions will be permitted. And please note that public hearings and ordinances each have their own comment period. So please hold those comments on those items until we reach them. Mr. Schriftman,
Mr. Mayor.
welcome.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Ross Schriftman. First of all, that was wonderful. I really appreciate that. There's many good organizations in this community doing great work. At your last general meeting, I had presented a proposal called Neighbors Helping Neighbors to address the problems of properties that are not being maintained, to help clean those up and maintain them. And Mr. Mayor, you give me a flyer for 211, and I looked it over. It's very important information, but it's secondary to the physical need that we still have. And I'd be glad to meet with council members or staff to see the advisability of creating such a program of volunteers and volunteer companies to help people that really need the help and maybe not ask all the time. It's been mentioned by members of council that sometimes people come up here and they complain about taxes and spending. That's what you hear because you're elected to office. This is one of the things that maybe save a little bit of money. I have another one. I'm going to offer to the city my time free of charge for my knowledge and experience as a health insurance agent to review the employee benefit package with the goal of lowering costs, improving benefits, and healthcare outcomes. During my career, I helped many small businesses and municipalities back in Pennsylvania do the same thing. And not only that, I taught courses to other insurance agents called as chartered benefit consultant. So the offer's on the table for that. Also, one other item that may be able to save a little bit of money. During the discussion on the optional 1% sales tax, and I'm not going to bring that up again, okay? You've all heard it. But there was a mention of the survey that was done, and I kept thinking I didn't remember getting a survey. So I contacted the manager who had the staff send me the information. And I appreciate their quick response on that. Out-of-state company, they've done it before, created and conducted municipal surveys in their business. That's what they do. The cost was $15,000. I'm not sure if that was just the city's cost because it was a countywide survey. So I'd be interested in finding that out. I found some problems with the survey. The survey method was mail or online. There was no personal interview. So it was a quick thing. It did allow people to make comments. The people that were surveyed were only registered voters. There were 1,000 that were sent out. And unusually, one of the questions was, do you usually vote? 99% said they usually vote. So I suspect that they used the voter history and only selected people that normally vote. Non-voters' opinions matter, although I think people should vote. Also, there's 80,000 people in Natrona County. Adult population would be about 59,000. There were 704 surveys back, which is 1.2% of adult population. The survey was also skewed towards wealthier and long-term residents. 30% had income over 100,000, and only 15% were less than 30,000. And 77% had lived here for more than 20 years. 2002 results, there was about 15,000 yes, 7,000 no's, but there were 37,000 people registered in the county. So while it was approved 2-1, there were about 15,000 people that didn't vote, and I'd be curious to see why they are not voting. There was also one other problem, a push poll. Push poll is where you make a statement, and then the question leads you in a direction. For instance, the was gonna say there would be a question like common sense gun control save lives. Do you believe in common sense gun control? Well, the cover letter had questions like, or statements like, the 1 cent is a major source of funding that is relied upon by the city, must be renewed. There was also a question, the tax has been approved for 48 years. Do you think it benefits the taxpayers? So my suggestion is, we spent $15,000 to ask taxpayers how they want to spend their tax dollars. I think it might be just easier to go out and ask people what they'd like to spend their money on. And that's my comments.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. City Manager, is it possible to have a work session item? And so we can talk about this topic, the neighbors helping neighbors, and possibly starting a volunteer group to go out into our neighborhood and help. I think it's a fantastic idea. And I'd like for the council maybe to delve into that. I will make one comment. Non-voters don't matter when it comes to voting. They just don't. They matter as people, but if they don't want to vote, then they have no business having a comment on anything that's on that voting ballot. It's just like, if you don't vote for president and the guy you don't like gets in there, what right do you have to gripe about it? So if people really want a say, that's why we have the democracy we have. They need to get out and they need to vote. And if they don't vote, there's not much we can do for them. So, and as far as your other item, you're welcome to contact the city manager's office. And, as far as checking out our health policies or whatever, I don't know where he'd be on that, but you're welcome to. That is not a council purview item. That would be something you'd have to go through his office to do. So you're welcome to contact him for that. Okay, you're welcome, of course. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to council this evening? Please. Just state your name if you would.
Daniel Jones.
I think it does work if you talk right into it. No, you might have to turn it on. Oh,
Hello.
hey there.
All right. My name is Daniel Jones. I've lived in Casper for 8 years. I practice, I'm a podiatrist here, so I've been here, have a vested interest in the future of Casper, Wyoming. Over the last year, we've seen a marked increase in the number of homeless individuals residing in and around downtown. Last Friday, while shopping with my wife, a drunken shirtless man approached us menacingly. I had to stand between him and my wife. Thankfully, he backed down and went on his way. But incidents like this and others like it are the reason I stand before you today. For example, over the last 2 weeks on the corner of 2nd Street and Grant, I have had either drunk or high individuals or other mentally ill individuals almost step out into the street in front of my car. The last time I had to brake pretty aggressively to avoid hitting them. When I see stuff like this and incidents like this, I don't feel safe downtown with my family. I feel safe. I'm not bothered by it, but I'm not going to take my, 9-year-old downtown, my wife, my kids. And it's really become bothersome for me. And so I stand before you today to discuss this. So in this situation, you might ask yourself, like, well, what have we done? I understand that there's been the sequential intercept model, which has been used in Casper to help people coming out of WI, coming out the hospital, coming into our city from out of towns. I understand. I praise the city council for doing this. But one thing, we know that doesn't work. We look at cities on the West Coast, Seattle, Los Angeles, San Francisco, well, we'll just build more housing for them. Housing isn't the problem. I don't think primarily it is a mental health problem. And, what are the things that can be done to address this problem? And I understand this didn't just come up out of nowhere. It's been here for a while, but it seems to have been reaching a tipping point, and I'm concerned for my city where, there's public spaces that I don't feel free to use. It is really bothersome to me, and it kind of makes me a little concerned. So, suggestion is to increase police presence downtown, including
police officers doing a walking beat where they're just basically going down downtown businesses. It's a very busy place downtown. I know 2nd Street stretches out forever, but specifically in the downtown business area where people tend to congregate, these are places that I believe having more officers walking the street would be a good idea. I understand that takes resources away from other places, but perhaps even a 1% tax to which is hard to get passed, but using portions of those proceeds to go towards or putting something on the ballot so that can go towards funding more police officers downtown. Also, in regards to passing laws that strengthen the ability for officers to enforce the policies that we have. The policies that we have can be enforced more, and also passing laws that give them more prosecutorial jurisdiction, including perhaps limiting the open container laws downtown to limit it just to certain events. So anytime outside of those events that people with open containers or public drunkenness can be enforced more fully. I suggest we get on top of this right now. It's just come to a head with me where I've just seen it, and it's like I grew up in California, so I know all about how stuff can go downhill. Like this town I grew up in was great when I grew up, but like I wouldn't let my kids wander around there now. Like it's terrible. Like you're gonna get harassed. Something really bad could happen. And so those are just a few of the things I'm asking, and I know that you guys are addressing the issue, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. I will tell you before Pat starts, we do have a homeless coalition now with a lot of bright minds in the room. We are working on trying to come up with solutions for the issue right now as we speak. So it's not falling on deaf ears. Our very own chairman of our county commission was accosted the other night, him and his wife, by a homeless person. It's very real. We understand that. I've been doing just a ton of interviews lately on this very subject to bring light onto this. We take it very seriously, and we are working towards it. And this very council, I believe tonight will be going through our second reading tonight. Is that right? On our homeless ordinance. And we are changing some ordinances to give our police officers the tools and the teeth that they need to start dealing with this in a more aggressive manner. So just so that you're aware of that.
Thank you.
Mr. Sweeney.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name's Pat Sweeney, 951 North Kimball. And I thought tonight might be a opportunity, being that you recognize several organizations dealing with the suicide prevention and those at risk. There was a bill in this last legislative session dealing with 988 suicide prevention and the new hotline. And it was House Bill 65. It did pass. And so I'll read the title basically, which goes on a little bit, but an act relating to suicide prevention, establishing the 988 system for suicide prevention and mental health crises, providing requirements for the 988 system, establishing duties of the Department of Health, providing rulemaking authority, providing for an advisory board, establishing the 988 trust fund and a related reserve account, providing for allocation of funds within and between the accounts, specifying immunity for telecommunications providers, specifying confidentiality of information, providing for implementation of the act, and providing the effective date. So the reason I bring this up tonight is we need everybody's help in this next session. Is a budget session coming up. And I want to point out what did happen and what didn't happen in this last session and who voted from our delegation in the legislature, both the House and the Senate, who voted for and voted consistently against the funding and pushing and making this happen in a reality. First off, they were successful in stripping the trust fund was going to be basically 46 million put into a separate trust account, and then those monies earned off that account would fund the biennium budget for the suicide hotline, the 988. That got stripped out, and they wanted more information because currently we're getting federal funds. And those will expire at the end of 25, in the 25 budget. So they also were successful in getting a sunset date. What that does, the whole thing expires and the program goes away if it doesn't get changed in the next couple of legislative sessions. So who voted for this on the Senate side and implementing it? And it was successful. Unfortunately, the funding got stripped and the sunset date got put in. So Senator Anderson, Senator Boner, which now reaches into Evansville from Converse County, voted for it. Senator Landon and Senator Scott. Who voted against it from our delegation was Senator Hyde. In the House, who voted for it was Representative Chadwick, Representative Harshman, Representative Obermuller, Representative O'Hearn, Representative Walters, and Representative Washit. Who voted against it, Representative Alaman, Locke, and Ward. And I bring this up because we need everyone's help in this next session to make sure that the funding is secure, that more things don't get stripped out, especially when we have budget surpluses like we did this last year. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Salinas. Thank you. Good evening.
I'm Rose Fry, and I just have a little dilemma going on in my neighborhood. Unbeknownst to me, I noticed a lot more traffic a couple houses down from me and questioned what was going on, and have since learned that I now have an Airbnb 2 doors down from me. And wow, the good thing about that is they do mow their lawn. But the bad thing about it is from my point of view, is a business, and they should be applying for some kind of special use permit to be allowed to operate their place there. I've also learned about speaking to other people about this, of other people having up to 3 of those around their houses, and while they have to keep them nice in order to rent them out, it's unfair to some of us that we now have businesses in our neighborhood. So I took my own little, it's not very perfect, but I took my own little poll of the 10 houses around me. And of the 10 houses around me, and I don't know everybody, I was sort of knocking on their door and saying, are you renting or are you owning? And I wouldn't do that. But of the 10 houses around me, 4 of them, 3 of them are rentals, and 1 is the Airbnb. I believe I have that right. And 2 of the rentals are clearly not, they look really poorly taken care of. I don't know if, the houses, the other houses on my street that look kind of poor. I live on Paradise Valley and my saying is it's hit and miss out there. Some people take care of their stuff and some people don't. And there's not, sometimes there's pride of ownership and sometimes there's not. And maybe people don't have the money to care for their home. I don't know the answer to that, but my street is, having lived there for 35 years, my street has completely, when you turn up at the first house you see is the rental that is really taken care of poorly. And then you go on up and I don't know about all the houses on it, whether they're rentals or not, or whether maybe they're Airbnbs. I don't know that either, but 4 out of 10 is kind of a big amount. So with that, I just would like my own home to be kind of selfish here, to keep its value and not have businesses next door to me, unbeknownst to me. So thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Did we not pass Airbnb ordinance, at some point? I recollect it coming across the dais.
An article from last year.
Do you happen to recollect, Mr. Manager?
Mr. Mayor, I could certainly get a memo to all of you that addresses what recent amendments you may have made pertaining to these kinds of things. But to be able to quote it to you now,
Fair enough. If it's brought to us and we're allowing a violation, we should probably look into it. So it would be nice to have that memo but thank you. Thank you very much. Ma'am, welcome.
Yes, I'm here, on behalf of the TNR program,
Yes, please.
the trap, neuter,
Sure.
and release.
Sure. Your name is?
My name is Meredith Russell Stock,
Welcome.
and I'm actually from Converse County. Read my little name here.
I'm sorry.
Mayor, Council, we're actually going to have a public hearing on the TNR ordinance.
Oh, you'll have to wait for that particular time then.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Those are reserved for those specific hearings. So it'll be coming up here shortly.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am, of course. Hi, Dan.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, Dan Sabrowski, Barton, Wyoming. I hadn't planned on speaking, but I can't let my good friend, former Representative Pat Sweeney, leave here with the notion that those that voted against that bill are somehow possibly cold-hearted. Now, you didn't say it, but it kind of left the feeling because they voted against it that they don't care about suicide. A couple of things. I would implore anybody, because I spent most of the session down there and watching the unfolding of that on the floor and in the committee hearings. Senator Bob Ide's wife, Kathy Ide, and those that know her well, this issue hits close to home for her. I implore you to go watch her testimony on that bill in the, I believe it was the Health Committee. Very touching. The concern with those that voted against the bill was the almost $50 million appropriation. What they were asking for was information on the success of current the federal phone number to call into. Because this isn't easy for me either, because it touches close. My best friend committed suicide. We've dealt with it in my own family, mental health. Within the last year, I had a phone call from a family member that said, "I'm worried about so-and-so. I think they're going to take their own life." And I said, "Did they tell you they're planning on it?" And they said, "Yes." And I said, "Then we're safe." Most healthcare professionals understand if you're seriously going to commit suicide, you're not going to reach out. You've hit such a dark place in your life. Most people, they're done talking. They're just going to go. So the success rate of calling in is not available. For $50 million, all they were asking for we'll give a couple million, let's do a trial run and take, note on the success. And then we'll look at a trust fund. So anyway, I just want to clear that up. It's a tough issue. It hits a lot of us. How we attack it, that's debatable. But if you vote against the bill like that, doesn't mean heartless on the issue. So I put that out there.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Is there anyone else that wishes to speak to council this evening? Okay, I want to thank all of you that came and did so. Establish a date of public hearing adopting fiscal year 2024 budget amendment number 1. Please read the consent agenda title.
Establish September 19th, 2023 as the public hearing date for adoption of the fiscal year 2024 budget amendment number 1.
Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion to by minute action establish the public hearing date just read.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Kathy, seconded by Councilor Haskins. Are there any abstentions or nay votes? All voting aye? Aye. Please record the vote. Thank you. I now declare the public hearing opened for the consideration of an ordinance amending chapter 5.08 of the Casper Municipal Code regarding the liquor code. Mr. City Attorney, do you have any exhibits?
Thank you, Mayor. I do. Exhibit number 1, correspondence from Clerk Tremmel to J. Carter Napier, dated September 5th, 2023. Exhibit number 2, proof of publication as published in the Casper Star Tribune on August 22nd and 29th, 2023.
Thanks, sir. Mr. City Manager, do you have a report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do indeed. This is the opportunity that council will have to consider the current ordinances that we have in relation to bar and grill liquor licenses and amend them so that they're consistent with the changes that have been made in the recent legislature pertaining to the same, more specifically along the lines of allowing for that 60-40 split that we've dealt with traditionally to include money spent on entertainment within those facilities. As we've talked about in work session, that could include axe throwing, it could include a number of things, but would not include adult entertainment as determined by this group. Furthermore, council is probably aware that the same legislation at the state level allowed for the city of Casper to receive 6 additional bar and grill licenses. The ordinance of which you're considering today doesn't really address that particular number, but I wanted you to be aware that in concert with this potential passage, we will be having a solicitation process to the public at large with regard to those businesses who may want to apply to all of you to be able to receive one of those new licenses that would ostensibly be available pursuant to your purview of the same.
Thank you. Council will now listen to public comment. Public hearing comments are limited to 5 minutes and no duplication of speakers will be allowed. At this time, I would ask those individuals who wish to speak in favor of an ordinance amending chapter 5.08 to please approach the lectern. Very good. At this time, I would ask if there are any individuals who wish to speak in opposition to an ordinance amending chapter 5.08 to please approach. All right, there being no one to speak for or against an amendment, an ordinance amending chapter 5.08, I now declare the public hearing closed. Please read the ordinance by title only.
Ordinance updating and amending chapter 5.08 of the Casper Municipal Code, including sections 5.08.150 and 5.08.390.
Thank you. Chair would entertain a motion to approve on first reading the ordinance just read.
So moved.
Moved by Councilor Engebretson, seconded by Councilor Jensen. Discussion. Anyone? Councilor Gambrell.
Do you want us using Teams?
Sorry?
I'm going old school.
No, it's fine. It's just fine.
Thanks, Mayor. I guess I just wanted to not leave the opportunity on the table to bring it up to my colleagues again. I don't have super strong feelings on this or kind of evidence or anything to back one position over the other, but I just think it's important for us to keep in mind this legislation crafted by the state legislature. We currently have 13 bar and grill licenses. It now allows for us to have 19. essentially a 50% increase. And then by 2028, that will allow for 27, which is essentially doubling our bar and grill licenses. So, my guess is that we're gonna have an impact in that regard, economic. There's gonna be positive and negative. There's gonna be a positive economic impact. There's more businesses that can use bar and grill licenses. It'll diversify that industry. I'm sure there's absolutely positive, but my guess is there will also be a coinciding negative impact, potentially crime related, since crime does seem to center around establishments that serve alcohol. So I think that's important to keep in mind, that we're essentially doubling these licenses in the next few years. And then also the fact that we're changing it to allow for entertainment to take up the 40% breakdown. You know, food tempers the effects of alcohol. You can have some food and it will reduce, you know, the impact that alcohol has on you, whereas entertainment doesn't. And so that's another thing. Again, I don't have super strong opinions. I don't have, unfortunately, a lot of good information to inform my position on this, but just things to keep in mind, that we're essentially doubling our bar and grill licenses, and we are also, you know, reducing the ability for folks to temper the influence of that alcohol by opening up the 60-40 breakdown to include things like entertainment as well. So again, I wish I had some direction to ask for council, but that's just something I think we need to keep in mind as we're debating this. Any unintended potential side effects? Thank you.
Thank you. I think I would add, we're not increasing, by doing this, we're not increasing alcohol consumption in the city of Casper. There's only so many people that can drink. All this is doing is giving them a different place to go. If you've got 5,000 people to go out and drink, doesn't matter if you have 10 places or you have 2 places. 5,000 people are going to go drink. Opening another establishment doesn't create a new alcoholic in the bunch or whatever. What it does do, it allows for business to expand in our community. It allows for economic development and diversity. So therefore, I am for it. Like I said, if I thought it was going to bring in a bunch more problems, that'd be different for me, but I don't see that happening. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I would want some more time. This was a 5-second Google search. So again, I'm not going to take a super strong position, but my feeling is that the research probably supports the notion that the more alcohol outlets that you have, there's an increase in consumption. And National Institute of Health, it looks like each additional liquor store in the neighborhood was associated with an increase by 1% in the mean number of standard drinks of alcohol consumed per drinking day, and 6% in the mean number of days of harmful consumption of alcohol. So my guess is that there's research out there to show that the more opportunities people have to imbibe, you're going to see increased consumption, is my guess. Thank you.
Could be. You're welcome. Councilor Jensen.
I also just want to point out too, is that even though we have these extended liquor license available, that in order to do that, they do have to comply with the TIPS training, and that is part of it. If they have food, there's fines. So you just have to take into account that those people who have those licenses, those people that are serving their license, they know what they're doing, those liquor beverages.
Good point. Councilor Ingebretson.
I just want to point out that every time we come up with this, Kyle says something. And the reason is because he's asking for us to try to have a conversation about it, and we're not. And so I agree with him. We probably should look at it and have a conversation instead of keeping to sweep this under the rug. So he's only asking for conversation and dialogue, and that's all he's been asking for, and he's been turned down. So I think that we should, because, you know, with the other councils around the state and stuff, I think that we should at least have some open dialogue about it.
I think that's fair. I guess that's probably why I commented, was to give him some dialogue. And I think that's why Councilor Jensen commented. You know, I'm of the opinion personally that bars sooner or later are going to phase themselves right out of work. I'd like to have a drink every once in a while, but the price they're charging now, no thanks. I'll go home. So I'm just of the opinion that sooner or later, something's got to give. You can't keep charging that kind of money for a 90-cent shot of liquor and a glass of Coke. It's just a guess on my part, but you know, I don't know. I guess we'll see. But go ahead.
You know, along those same lines is you will reach a saturation point that you may wind up with a new business but depending on how the customer base shifts, as we saw when they banned smoking in Casper, the businesses and the smokers shifted to the county. So the in-town establishments that allowed smoking lost business. As you had said, there are a number of drinkers, X number. When they start now distributing that X number amongst 19 instead of 13, somebody's going to lose business. And depending on how they're running that business, some of those businesses will probably not survive. Therefore, that will also self-regulate the people that are out drinking, and you will wind up probably back at a lesser number.
I would agree with that. And I think it brings more specialty into it. In other words, if you want a country swing dance, you're probably going to the Beacon. If you want to go throw axes, you're probably going to the axe throwing place. I think will allow for more specialty type of places is my guess. Councilor Bond.
Thank you, Mayor. I've said this before and I'll say it again. I would support, as Councilor Gamroth and Councilor Ingebrigtsen have mentioned, I think it is time to have a conversation about liquor licensing. And while I don't think we're necessarily going to change people's behavior, I don't know that that's our responsibility as a council or as a city, but I do think we're in a position and have the responsibility to at least work on creating the conditions that that govern the businesses that sell liquor in our city. So with that said, I just want to reiterate kind of, and I don't know if this is what's on Councilor Gamroth's or Councilor Ingebrigtsen's mind, but the idea of just kind of, again, revisiting our liquor licensing laws for the city. As I said before, I think we as a society have evolved or are evolving with our understanding and our approach to alcohol consumption. And I think it's time for us to again have a conversation, including the idea of the graduated or kind of phased approach to liquor licensing, where basically it for businesses who, and again, this falls in our purview, is the businesses that are responsible purveyors of alcohol maintain, a level of privilege and some liberty. Where if a business is irresponsible, they begin to lose or at least have more restrictions on their purveyance of alcohol. So I would support a deeper conversation about alcohol vendors. Thank you.
You're welcome. And, before I go to Brandy, I would say I'm on your train of thought as well. I remember last year when we had so many of our liquor establishments that had sold to minors and how upset it made me. And I remember saying, you guys are going to have a tough time getting your liquor license approved through me if you continue to serve minors and not take care of your business. I remember specifically saying that, and I can't speak for the whole council, but I was speaking for myself at the time. But there are certain things that are just cut and dried for me, and that happens to be one of them. So you are absolutely correct. Councilor Haskins.
So I think I might be evolving on this conversation a little bit. I recently decided to try this 75 hard, which I'm failing at miserably, mind you, but I haven't had an alcoholic beverage in 60 days. And it has brought to my attention that places that serve alcohol, I feel really lame going to a brewery when I'm not drinking. I would throw axes, but I've spent a good bit of time at concerts over the last 60 days, and it is weird not drinking when you drink at a concert. But I went to a couple of places in Colorado and they offered multiple non-alcoholic beers, which is my new thing now. And I'm now noticing everywhere that does not offer them. And the event center I've tried a couple times, they have Coors Edge, but I had to go to 3 different liquor lines to get a non-alcoholic beer. And I was really annoyed because, like I said, that's my new thing. So I think I agree with Kyle. that it could cost more because I'm not gonna go to a brewery and not drink. But I would totally go to a brewery and drink a non-alcoholic beer. And it is a movement right now, according to my Facebook page. People want to hang out, but they want to not drink. But they don't want to feel like I'm not drinking. Instantly, you're like, why? Are you an alcoholic? So I feel like if we're gonna do this, I would beg the restaurants and the establishments, offer a non-alcoholic so I can come. I really want to look cool. I'm not drinking, but we don't have to feel the pressure to drink, especially if we can drink and not get drunk. We don't have to get drunk. And some of us can't drink right now. So I would love to see more non-alcoholic options, but you do have to have a liquor license to sell non-alcoholic. So I'm still gonna vote yes for this.
I think it's a supply and demand issue. I think it's awful hard to stock a product that you're not selling.
We're gonna
So-
try to drink a whole lot.
Well, there you go. That'll certainly change the
It's
way.
the thing now. It really is.
Go ahead, Jenna.
Just want to point out, they're not flying off the shelves. Are they, Carla? They're not.
What aren't? The non-alcoholic?
No, the extra liquor license that are.
Oh, right. No, the truth is, it requires a tremendous investment in order to open an establishment and put a license like that to work. Whether you buy or rent an existing building and have to remodel it, or first off, where are you gonna find the help, in order to do it? And I can tell you, Pete Maxwell's a great friend of mine down at the gas light, and the times are tough. It's a hard business to be in right now. So, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but is there any further discussion? Would you mind getting us a work session so that we can have a more poignant discussion concerning our liquor laws? And I very much like the idea of having some type of an accountable law. I don't want to start telling people how to run their businesses, but ultimately it's our responsibility to protect our citizens and to make sure that we're providing a good environment, to raise our kids and well, for even people to go and be at. So if that requires a little bit of accountability on people that aren't taking care of the business, I think that'd be a good thing. So we'll get that on a work session. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm glad to hear that. Perhaps as part of this conversation at our work session, I think it would be helpful for us my guess is we were to capture a lot of data through the reporting at the police department. Last time I checked, 43% of crime in Natrona County was alcohol involved. And so I guess we do have the luxury, I think, of these bar and grill licenses being rolled out over time. We are going to have 6 available to us, and then we'll have more available here in the next couple of years. So I would love for us to be establishing those baseline metrics. 43% of crime is alcohol involved at this time. We add 6 more licenses. Does that have an impact on our alcohol related crime? Is that crime being centered around establishments that are utilizing the bar and grill licenses? I would just like for us to start tracking those metrics so that after we, potentially distribute out these 6, if people choose to take the opportunity, we'll be more informed for when we have the opportunity to roll out the extra, other 6 or whatever those are. So
That'll certainly be something we'll have to discuss because that'll take manpower. So can you add that into our discussion on that particular date?
I believe so.
Awesome. Well, thank you, sir. Is there any other discussion on this topic? All right. With that, are there any amendments? Any abstentions or nay votes? Ma'am? She'll be abstaining, yeah. You'll note that. Okay. All voting aye?
Aye.
Please record the vote. Thank you. We will wait for the counselor to come back and then you'll be up, ma'am. Just a minute. I'm getting to your topic now. I'm just waiting on our counselor to come back in here. One comes in, one goes out. What's the deal? Oh,
accidentally lost.
why don't you go? We'll just wait a minute. Since we've got another one missing. I'll stretch my legs. How's that? Sorry, that was a rather lengthy discussion.
Or just
Where are you?
watching or making? I mean, not filming it, just watching.
Oh,
Yeah,
like were you doing the gym? Check me out. I'm at the Lyric.
Nah.
Yes.
It seems to be a meeting today.
Hey, look at the screen, Bruce. That's your belly. Right, flex your belly.
That stupid thing follows you wherever you go. Yeah.
Don't turn around.
I'll be back on there again tomorrow.
Somebody's just laying on me.
Casper.
Santa Mare is here. That's not nice. Knock it off. Oh, wait, I said it. Oh, love it. Yeah, me too. I decided to wait for this. Kyle had to go anyway. Thanks, man. So I'm like, hey, let's just be here for a second. There he is. Okay, welcome back and thank you. I'm sorry, Kyle. I now declare the public hearing open for the consideration of an ordinance amending chapter 6.04 of the Casper Municipal Code regarding a trap neuter release program. Mr. City Attorney, do you have any exhibits, sir?
Thank you, Mayor. I do. Exhibit number 1, correspondence from Eric Nelson to Jay Carter Napier dated August 28th, 2023. Exhibit number 2, proof of publication, is published in the Casper Star Tribune on August 12th and 15th, 2023.
Thank you, sir. Mr. City Manager, do you have a report?
Yes, sir, I do indeed. Mr. Mayor and councilors, a number of months ago, you wisely asked that a task force be put together to discuss the services and the scope and management structure and everything else relating to Metro and the services they oversee. As a part of that, you invited members of our broader community, our partners, to come into that discussion as well. One of the more significant recommendations that they've come forward with is this program that you're evaluating tonight. We are having taken an approach to amending the ordinance, not necessarily to obligate the council to pursue and embrace a TNR program, but rather allow for the use of TNR, even on a pilot basis that this proposes, so that indeed we can evaluate its merits and potential long-term use of its existence with Metro. Your partner agencies are going through similar conversations with their respective legislative bodies. Furthermore, council should be aware that with the notion that this is not an obligatory step that council should take, or not take, as it were, we are not suggesting a budget amendment to accommodate this either. Certainly, I would suggest that this be in your mind as you go through this deliberation, in that it does allow this flexibility for this program to occur, but council really doesn't have a mandate, as it were, pertaining to what you're considering via this amendment.
Very good. Thank you. Council will now listen to public comment. Public hearing comments are limited to 5 minutes. No duplication of speakers will be allowed at this time. I would ask those individuals who wish to speak in favor of an ordinance amending chapter 6.04 to please approach the lectern. Hi, please state your name.
Eric Russell Stock, and I live on a farm outside of Douglas, Wyoming. And was greatly benefited by this program and the help from these people. And I'll just read my little bill here.
Sure.
Last fall, I ended up with a serious feral cat problem out on my farm. I mean, it had originated from a residence that was nearby. There were about 18 cats. A couple of months prior, my husband had passed away, and in addition to dealing with his death, I was overwhelmed with this very serious cat situation. Through a friend, I was told about the TNR program, and I can't say enough wonderful things about Laura, the gal that's the head of it, and Casper, and her volunteers. On their own time, and they had done this for several months, and on their own expense, they would travel all the way out to my farm from Casper to trap cats and offer any additional help that I needed. Now, a year later, the situation is under control. I now feed and shelter pretty much those same 18 cats, and many of them I've tamed down so I could potentially find homes for them. If I hadn't gotten that kind of help, there probably would be, they breed like crazy. There'd probably be 50 cats out there by now. So anyway, the help I received through this TNR program was a direct answer to a prayer, and I couldn't be more grateful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Heather.
The TNR program here locally, and I also have done TNR on our own before we started working with the local TNR project for about 10 years in Casper. So I grew up outside of town on the old Glen Rock Highway, and just like anybody who lives rurally here, you get cats dropped off all the time. And if you have a property, you either get rid of the cats, whether you trap them, kill them, take them to Metro, or they breed. And you don't have wildlife, you don't have little birds, you don't have rabbits. And as a kid, one of my first memories is seeing like a line of little rabbits killed, heads ripped off. Cats do what we train them to do and what we have domesticated them to do. For thousands of years, they kill every little creature in their territory, whether they're hungry or not. And they're gonna always do that. And cats aren't going anywhere. As a species, we've always had domestic cats, we're always going to. And I think that this debate has kind of, as a community, there's been a bit of a battle about how to deal with these cats. Should they be dealt with in a culling, more draconian ways or more humane ways? And I think what's important is that it's effective. We all love cats, but we recognize that they are devastating ecologically. Like they destroy birds, they destroy the kind of ecological diversity that we really prize in Wyoming. And it's going to take a broad-based approach, just like it has in other communities. TNR is a big part of that. And it's effective. It's not a silver bullet. I think it's going to take community education about fixing cats. It's going to maybe take some laws that discourage people from letting female cats, unfixed female cats, just run wild. But TNR is extremely effective in reducing the population, but also the disease burden of the populations. Because when you fix these cats, there's a lot less disease, there's a lot more stable populations, and so that's better for the entire environment. There are a lot of criticisms of TNR, but most of them revolve around its limitations. It's by itself, it's not enough to completely eliminate all feral cats, but it absolutely helps stabilize populations and reduce them. And there are other technologies that are being developed right now. And just this summer, research was published about a single shot contraceptive that's been effective for like 3 to 4 years for cats. And this is an injection of the thigh. So there are other technologies. This probably wouldn't be commercially available for another 5 years, but there are other solutions we can look at in the future. But even a country like Australia, and I lived in Hawaii for 2 years, and I saw what a real feral cat problem is like. We have a medium-sized problem here. They have a huge problem, and it's catastrophic. And we can stop it here, huh?
I said no pun intended, right?
Yeah, exactly. Catastrophic. Apocalyptic. That's right.
Well, that's quite a statement.
That's right. Not that fast, yeah. So in Australia, they've had to do everything. They have huge culls, they have traps that poison, and they still can't keep them under control. And we have an opportunity here in this community to contain the problem before it ever gets to that point. And we can do that with a combination of methods. The TNR is one of those methods. So I really wish we'd support that. And I also don't, I think as a community, you know, I'd like to see less conflict about the methods and more just coming together to see, you know, we need multiple methods. It's TNR alone is not enough. We also need low-cost spay and neutering clinic. There's going to be a lot less loose, we call them baby factories, you know, mama cats in the community if people have access to low-cost spay and neutering. And these programs are also effective. So I just wanted to say that in summary, this is something we have to deal with. It's only going to get worse. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have a comment?
I do. Lindsay, was it? I don't have a question, so you're free to sit down, but I just wanted to give you props. Thank you so much for your testimony, and thank you for also acknowledging the you know, the limitations, but also the efficacy of TNR, but also the community education piece, which is critical. I'm a fan of TNR. All the research I've done shows that it is not the silver bullet solution, but it's part of a you know, array of things that you can be doing to stabilize and reduce the cat population. But one thing I haven't seen enough from the animal advocates in town, and I really appreciate you bringing it up tonight, is the community education piece regarding allowing your own personal, you don't have a feral cat, but you have your own pet cat, allowing it to free roam around the community contributes to the negative ecological impact.
Hugely.
If they're not sterilized, it contributes to the feral cat problem. So thank you so much for bringing that up, because I think that's a huge piece of this that we haven't yet had the opportunity to talk too much about, but I do know the Casper Community TNR program. I think they provide resources for people to create like catios or like outdoor, you know, areas for their cat to go that is appropriate, that doesn't allow them to just roam the neighborhood. You know, I had cats in my old neighborhood by the fairgrounds. I don't believe they were feral cats. I believe it was pet owners allowing their cats to free roam. And they would come in my yard, they would poop all over the place, and my 2 little 5-pound Yorkies would eat it and come try to lick my face. It drove me crazy.
Yeah.
So that's absolutely a piece of this. I just wanted to thank you for bringing it up. It's not something that we've heard much, if anything, about from folks that are fans of TNR, which I am. And I also agree with the points you made. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi there.
Sarah Bieber, Casper. I am also with the Casper TNR program. I've worked with them closely for the last couple of years. I have done everything from trapping to fostering to transporting. Casper TNR started because we have lots of colonies of cats that were out of control and it was only growing and getting worse. So we as a group started trapping and fixing cats. And as was pointed out, on our own money, we started getting donations and grants and different things from national organizations that helped us grow that. And we started trapping, and we started getting our feral cats and our feral colonies, the moms first, and then the boys all neutered. And then the kittens, if we could, we would trap as many as we could and remove them, foster them, make sure that they were appropriate for adoption and taming, and then we would get them to rescues that we worked closely with to make sure that they were placed in homes appropriately. We have rescued over 400 kittens in the last year. We have TNR'd over 100 cats, female cats, and I think we're up to 75 boys.
Just in the last year?
Yes.
Wow.
So we as volunteers have done phenomenal stuff. We also have worked closely with Metro to try to help them understand TNR and to understand what goes into TNR. I am definitely in support of this and would encourage you guys to definitely take a good look at this. This is a piece of it, not the whole puzzle. If Metro were to take this as something that they could add to their toolkit, that would help us as a community organization to continue doing what we're doing while they're also helping us do that. They have wider spread for, like Mr. Gamrell said, the public education piece could come more from Metro, and what they do in the community involvement that they have then could come from just a small organization of volunteers. We do have a component of education, but most of it is you have the problem already. So now what do we do? So that's kind of a reactive
education instead of a preventative education. So that's kind of why you see that weird lag there. Laura is our chair of our organization here in Casper, and she does a phenomenal job organizing us and getting us where we need to be. Money wise, like I said, there are grants, there are lots of different things that we have applied for, we have experience with, we would be more than willing to help. We have some phenomenal volunteers that help write grants for funding. If we continue to do this through the city, through Metro, we can definitely would be more than happy to provide those. I think there is a level of cats regardless that will require being euthanized. They're too sick, they're too injured, they're whatever it is, there will always be a level of animal that has to be put down because that's the humane thing to do. I don't think that you can take that component out, but TNR allows us to make that number smaller and control the population so that we don't get to that out of control point. We all care about animals. We don't want to see them suffering. We also don't want them pooping in our gardens and having our Yorkies eat it. That's definitely annoying. So we have to put in all of those components. I would encourage you to do a trial of this. Have it set at 5 to 7 years because the turnover at Metro is significant and does happen frequently. And so the education component that goes in with training on those aspects for Metro is definitely something that could be switched around if you have a lot of turnover up there. And so if you give more than a year, that allows us as a group to be able to help them to form a good path so that they have good grounding in what they're doing with TNR. So those are all of my suggestions for taking it on.
Thank you. I don't think you're gonna have much fight with this council, but potentially this could get us where we need.
Thanks, Mayor. And I would agree, it sounds like we kind of have consensus. So I don't know how many people need to be converted on our council, but Councilor Pollack had offered for me to do some further education of this council because I had some statistics and stuff. At one point, I can't find those, and I've been burdened with guilt.
Pass
not
you that
being able
layup
to.
Well, luckily, I
I
don't
know,
know if it's not necessary, so.
Gave me the pass, and I'm totally botching it, but I do still think it's important from like just a public information perspective. So I hate to ask Sarah, Lindsay, or anyone else to help carry the load for me, but if you guys, I would really appreciate, I thought I had it, I couldn't find it in my hours of looking through my notes, but case studies from cities in Wyoming that have implemented TNR. I thought it was Riverton had done it. I thought Sheridan had done it. So Sheridan.
Okay, let's hang on just a second. We're getting way off, because, well, we need to get to our discussion part of it first.
Oh,
So,
all right. Well, I was just gonna ask that.
I don't want to overcrowd. You'll be able to in just a second. I don't want to overcrowd it. If there's anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in opposition to an ordinance amending chapter 604 to please approach. Okay, there being no others to speak for or against an ordinance, I now declare the public hearing closed. Please read the ordinance by title only. Right to you. Okay, the chair would entertain a motion to approve on first reading the ordinance just read. So moved.
Second.
Moved by Vice Mayor, seconded by Councilor Ingebretson. Now we may have some discussion.
Thank you.
Yes.
To any supporters of TNR, if you have information or presentations, I've seen PowerPoints before, I just can't find them. Illustrating the impact that Wyoming specific, because I think that's more relevant to us than what has been done elsewhere around the country. Wyoming specific case studies of TNR being implemented. If you could please share that with the council. Been meaning to email Laura and just haven't. So I think that would be helpful for information for us to have, and I'd be happy to present it at a future council meeting if someone could help me procure it again. Thank you.
Councilor Jensen, did you have something?
I was just gonna say, I am supporting this TNR and from firsthand experience too. Growing up in northern Minnesota, we had rural little hobby farm there, and I watched the cat population on our little farm multiply down to about, we had 26 of them and they had names for all of them. And it was great. When they came off the bus, they all waited for me to feed them. But, you know, that's not really great because I did pick up my share of cat
Well, I think I would ask if we do get a hold of that information to just email it, because I don't think, just in order to save time, I don't think you're gonna have one opposition on this dais.
So what about the songbirds? So this is what when you brought up the songbirds, this is where I'm surprised that we haven't heard from like the Audubon Society and different groups that are bird watchers, because the toll that it does take on the bird population and the special songbirds, I mean, they're getting to a extinct problem because it's, it is, and that's what they do. So I'm for it. That's what I want to say.
Anyone else? All right, any amendments?
Whoops, is this the discussion time?
It is.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm the negative. Okay, I will not vote for this because I feel like this is nothing more than a backdoor approach to get TNR established in our community. I have not seen a budget which I asked for. I have not seen a business plan that I have asked for. And this is turning out to be an open-ended, because they even talk about how Metro is going to and Metro will. That's a cost to our city. Mr. Gamroth, Councilor Gamroth himself, when this came up, 2 years ago? 3 years ago, when they were here for a TNR program, said that we would support it if they would come back with the money and the funds. They haven't done that. Prior to that even, they tried to have this program and it failed due to lack of funding. If we wind up funding this, we are taking money away from our streets, our sewer, our police, our fire to fund feral cats. I do not think that is where our money should be going. And that's my piece. I understand where you all are.
Okay.
So I don't need a big rebuttal, but that's where I am.
Fair enough. I do want to say though, if we did, and I think we did get a cost estimate, and I think it was very minimal. I think it was, if I remember correctly, was it $15 a piece? You're gonna have to help me recollect. But I do remember that when that was presented to us, that the cost of doing it was far cheaper than the cost of allowing them to overrun like they have been. And you'll have to, I hate to put you on the spot, but I'm recollecting.
Mr. Mayor, the cost data that you're referring to, I'm happy to recollect and get it back to the council. And I would tell you that as far as the societal cost for letting feral cats, grow and populate and repopulate and so on, certainly would be more expensive than a singular treatment, if you will, of an animal. Where the disparity comes is with respect to a euthanization. The hard cost for euthanization will never be more expensive than a TNR procedure. And so that's where we ran into difficulty in the past. However, I am not proposing a budget at this point in time, in that we do not have a cost center set up for this program. And we certainly are anticipating, sort of a grant that would help us buy the equipment and the clinics that we would anticipate being provided by our private partners is the approach that we're anticipating at this point in time.
Well, and with that said, just to anticipate, educated guess would say that it's going to be cheaper budgetarily than what we're doing now with the euthanization of these animals. Is that not true?
Mr. Mayor, a singular cost for a euthanization is exceptionally cheaper than a TNR treatment. I mean, it just is, because a single shot just does not cost that much. In a lot of schools of thought, however, that's not the most humane way of dealing with overpopulation. And so that's the rub that the operation has with regard to advocates for a program of this nature. And that's been the controversy.
Councilor Pollock, sorry.
Thank you. And I Not so much rebuttaling to you, Steve, but since we have public here, we've got press here, I want to make sure that we represent the conversation that's happened at the task force level appropriately. I think, ultimately, this was brought to us from a number of people sort of singing the same tune, really, saying that this is the direction that we need to go, including the folks at Metro who did quite a bit of analysis. And, I think that where the difference comes in is that the goal here is to stabilize the cat population so that you do not have essentially an escalating forever cost of euthanasia. So they may be cheaper on an individual basis, but when you look at it as a cost that you will bear into perpetuity at an increasing rate and an escalating number, that starts to feel pretty inefficient and unsustainable. And so what we're looking to do is sort of stabilize a cat population through TNR so that over time, the benefit is realized. It may cost a bit more upfront, but the benefit is over time. And so I think that in literally every bit of data and information that was presented to the task force indicated that these programs are effective and that they are a cost worth bearing because of the efficacy. So I think that, I don't think it's a fair comparison to say like year one is going to cost us this versus what it would cost us to euthanize the animals. I think that really this is a long-term, a more long-term fix to a problem that will continue to grow in our community. So I think that's the conversation that was had at the task force level. We have, I think, something that bodes well for this is we have community folks who are already spending their own time and money doing this, right? So I think that I think there's also something like fundamentally inappropriate to expect that group come up with all the money to handle this problem. I think it is a community problem and it needs we need partners. So we've got partners. They know how to do this. They've been doing it for a good long while. We've got surrounding communities on board now. They're going through the same process to implement this program in their communities because obviously the feral cat problem is not isolated to the municipal boundary of Casper. So I think all the pieces are in place. And I think what we need now is for the city to accept its role in the overall problem and hopefully be part of the solution. So that's where the task force landed, along with our community partners. And that was after months of analysis and trying to understand the issue, trying to understand the data that exists about it. And really all signs pointed to supporting us.
Thank you, Steve.
Basically, I understood what you're saying about that, but by the same token, where are the dollars and the facts on what you would estimate for the first year, or even the second year, for the third year, if it's going to go down? I mean, that's all I've been asking for is financials, and I have seen none. And I cannot open the city coffers to nothing. I just can't do that.
Well, first off, we don't have a program like that in place, so I don't know that we would know what those costs are. I think that's why they wanted to have what would you call it, a temporary or a pilot. This is a pilot program so that we could figure out what that looks like.
Well,
but we do, regardless of, it's not going to be at an exorbitant cost, I could tell you that. But we do have an issue in our community that must be addressed. It's wreaking havoc in our neighborhoods and it's causing damage. And I mean, we have to do something. Go ahead. I'll get right back to you. Go ahead.
To be clear, we're not approving a program with a budget allocation right now. We're approving the opportunity to put together, we can't even legally put together a program or a cost analysis right now because we're not allowed to be doing this until we change this ordinance. So we'll change the ordinance and then whether it's the city staff or whether it's the task force or, whatever, then we can start to build hard costs of what the equipment costs, what grants are out there, all that sort of thing. But right now, it's hypothetical because as of now, this program isn't even allowed to exist in the community. So before there's a program approved, it will come before council again with more detail.
You don't need this ordinance to put together a business plan. You don't need this ordinance to figure out a budget. You can talk to the veterinarians, you can talk to the people, you can talk to the chief and find out how much of Metro Animals' time is going to be taken. You can put all of this together without an ordinance. It's just like when you started your business. You started off with a business plan. You knew what your budget was going to be before you ever got your licenses or anything, because you had to figure all of that into it to be able to start a business and think that you may or may not have a chance of success. And you have done that very well. And I admire you for the starting of your business. But that's all I'm asking for. That's what I had to do when I started my business 25 years ago. So but again, that was what I asked the chief, a month ago? So
Chief, I think it'd be beneficial for the council to hear your stance on this, since you are ultimately the person in charge of Metro. If you would, please. Thank you for letting me put you on the spot.
Yeah, first of all, currently our ordinance as it exists today allows for no provision of an animal coming into our possession and getting released back. So there's no return provision in our ordinance. The ordinance changes that you're looking at today are simply to make it possible for us to be able to return an animal back once it comes into our possession. So currently, it's not that it's prohibited, but there's no provision for us to return an animal. So we're not locking the city into a budgetary impact on this. We're just changing the ordinance in such a way that we can entertain this. We can take a look at it. We can engage in this process. And without question, we've adopted this from the point of view of approaching council with this trial. Let's find out. Let's see that if it in fact may have worked for Sheridan, but does it work for Casper? When it comes to the hard costs, we have spent some time researching what the projected costs are to hire the veterinarian to perform these. We know what the equipment is going to cost, and we have been actively engaged and I think quite successful at getting some promissaries from these nonprofit organizations that are helping us get it set up with the equipment that we need and all of the things that we're going to need. So this is very much, for the time being, this is a partnership with multiple organizations, multiple community groups. And so far, we have not submitted a budget through Carter, through the city whatsoever, because right now we are focusing on obtaining the equipment and everything necessary through our partnerships with these nonprofits. So I'm not really in a position to give you the specific dollars, although I can tell you we have heard from the vets. I can tell you what a spay would cost, what a neuter would cost. But it's the operational efficiency of the trap, neuter, and return program of identifying a cat colony that's causing a problem in our community, swooping in and getting as much of that colony all in one, planning an operation. Think of it as a tactical operation that the police department does for criminals. And it's scheduled, it's known in advance. The veterinarian and the equipment and the storage, the housing that I need for those cats during the brief healing period, all of it is planned in advance. We conduct that operation. So the efficiency of operation really brings the cost to the city down. The flip side to this, which we should not ignore the fact that very commonly I am overrun and at full capacity for cats in the shelter. We want to be actively striving towards not having to euthanize animals. We're very good at not euthanizing canines, but we do euthanize cats because of the overpopulation. When these feral cats in particular arrive at the shelter through the various methods that they get to us at the shelter, they bring a much higher likelihood of the very contagious diseases into the shelter. So the true costs of it have been alarming. We had to shut down all feline operations for an extended period of time last year. So not only could we not deal with the ones that we had, we couldn't accept any more into the shelter. And so we were at capacity. That capacity was sick and contagious. And it really kind of shut down our operations until we got that contagion under control at the shelter. So there's all these hidden costs that we're trying to rectify through this program. But without overstating it, this is at heart fundamentally a cooperative effort between nonprofits, community groups, animal passionate people about animals. We're all working together to improve not only the conditions here in Casper, but in our surrounding conditions. So there, I can get and we'll provide to the city manager the information on what our anticipated costs on this. What we don't know is the volume that is going to be needed, because even as we are having this conversation tonight, we have these community groups are out doing it on their own anyway. And we receive emails of support and testimonials of people that have been donating their own time, their own energy, their own monies to accomplish this already ongoing in the city. So we just don't have a feel for the volume yet.
Thank you, Mayor. I was gonna have some questions for you, Chief, but you actually addressed the points I was gonna ask you about. The first one being the fact that my recollection of our last Animal Shelter Task Force meeting was that Scott at Metro had said he was in the process of working to acquire grants to purchase. There is an upfront capital cost for the equipment, and my understanding was that we were having some good conversations about grants to procure that at no cost to the city. And then also you made a distinction that I think is important, that doing trap, spay, neuter just over the course of a year for every feral cat that comes in the shelter could potentially require either a veterinarian on staff or us to have to hire a veterinarian to come up every afternoon or once a week or whatever. But what we've been talking about in these groups is to do singular events where we are planning it, we are scheduling it, we are calling all hands on deck and grabbing as many cats at once to realize those operational efficiencies and to achieve some better outcomes. And so I just wanted, thank you for addressing those points. I think those two important distinctions to make. So thank you.
Thank you. Carter, did you have something, sir?
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to kind of condense staff's response with regard to why we're here. To be emphatic a little bit, really the only reason we need this ordinance to be considered by all of you is to be able to even consider a program of this nature in our toolbox, because right now it's not available to us. And if council would like us to pursue this, we've got more work to do to even establish a pilot, the likes of which it sounds like we've taken some initial steps with. And I would say very initial, very preliminary. But the heart of the ordinance that we're proposing to you today is to simply and only allow TNR to be available in our toolbox. And that's it. That's really it.
Fair enough. Any amendments? Thank you, Chief, very much. All right. Any abstentions or nay votes? Councilor Cassidy will be nay. All others voting aye. Please record the vote.
And all of the council and all of the council voting like the motion passes.
Thank you. I now declare the public hearing open for the consideration of a resolution regarding annexation compliance of the JTL Group Incorporated Addition Annexation. Mr. City Attorney, do you have any exhibits?
Thank you, Mayor. I do. Exhibit number 1, correspondence from Liz Becker to J. Carter Napier, dated September 5th, 2023. Exhibit number 2, proof of publication, as published in the Casper Star Tribune on August 5th and 12th, 2023.
Thanks, sir. Mr. City Manager, do you have a report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, councilors. The added feature that you have with regard to this annexation process, which is very consistent with the other annexation processes that we've endeavored in the past, is the adoption of a resolution in part with the third reading and so on, that suggests compliance or not with regard to the statutes that govern and direct annexation procedures for cities and towns. That resolution would tell you this evening that indeed we do believe that the annexation is demonstrated by the exhibit in front of you tonight is consistent with statute and does comport with regard to the 4.78 acres that's being proposed by the petitioner to be brought into the limits of the city.
Thank you, sir. Council will now listen to public comment. Public hearing comments are limited to 5 minutes and no duplication of speakers will be allowed. This time I would ask those individuals who wish to speak in favor of annexation compliance for JTL Group Incorporated Edition to please approach the lectern. Okay, this time I would ask any of those individuals who wish to speak in opposition to annexation compliance for JTL Group Incorporated Edition to please approach the lectern. All right, there being no others, no one to speak for or against annexation compliance for JTL Group Incorporated Edition, I now declare the public hearing closed. Please read the resolution by title only.
State statute 15-1-402 regarding the annexation of 4.78 acres to create the JTL Group Inc. Edition.
Thank you. Is there a motion on the floor?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Pollock, seconded by Councilor Kathy. Discussion. Anyone? All right, very good. Any amendments? Any abstentions or nay votes? All voting aye?
Aye.
Please record the vote. Thank you. Public hearing resolution, Elkhorn Village Edition number 3, annexation compliance. I now declare the public hearing open for the consideration of a resolution regarding annexation compliance of the Elkhorn Village Edition number 3. Mr. City Attorney, do you have any exhibits?
Thank you, Mayor. I do. Exhibit number 1, correspondence from Liz Becker to J. Carter Napier, dated September 5th, 2023. Exhibit number 2, affidavit of publication, is published in the Casper Star Tribune on August 5th and 12th, 2023.
Thank you, sir. Mr. City Manager, do you have a report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Very similarly to the JTL annexation and pursuant to the third reading that you're about to consider, this resolution also is built around the idea that indeed we do believe that this annexation, albeit for 0.85 acres in this subject area, is consistent also with statute governing annexation and the like.
I thank you. Council will now listen to public comment. Public hearing comments are limited to 5 minutes and no duplication of speakers will be allowed. At this time, I would ask those individuals who wish to speak in favor of annexation compliance for Elkhorn Village Edition number 3 to please approach the lectern. Very good. At this time, I would ask those individuals who wish to speak in opposition to annexation compliance for Elkhorn Village Edition number 3 to please approach. All right, there being no one to speak for or against annexation compliance for Elkhorn Village Edition number 3, I now declare the public hearing closed. Please read the resolution by title only. Thank you. Is there a motion? The chair would entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Councilor Haskins, seconded by Councilor Pollock. Discussion. Anyone? Okay. Amendments? Any abstentions or nay votes?
We abstain.
Okay. All voting aye.
Aye.
Please record the vote.
Abstention and all of the councilors voting, I the motion passes.
Were you trying to make me do Tourette's, or is that what you're doing? I'm watching you. Third reading ordinance. Didn't we just do that?
Nope.
Oh, no, that was the annexation. Okay. Please read the ordinance on third reading by title only.
JTL Group Inc. Edition subdivision.
Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion to approve on third reading the ordinance just read.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Kathy, seconded by Councilor Haskins. Council will now listen to public comment. Public comments are limited to 5 minutes and no duplication of speakers will be allowed. Is there anyone who wishes to speak concerning the JTL Group Incorporated Edition subdivision? All right, very good. Any discussion on the dais? No? All right, any amendments? Any abstentions or nay votes? All voting aye?
Aye.
Please record the vote. Thank you. Council will now consider consent resolutions. Please read the consent resolutions by title only.
Approving the annexation act and zoning creating the Elkhorn Village Edition number 3 subdivision.
There's an awful lot of them.
No, we're on.
No,
Oh, no, we're still on
Page
third reading ordinance of the Elkhorn Village.
go to page 13.
Oh, I lost one. Sorry. The chair would entertain a motion to approve on third reading the ordinance just read.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Counselor Pollock, seconded by Counselor Kathy. That's stuck together and I apologize for that. Council will now listen to public comments. They are limited to 5 minutes and no duplication of speakers will be allowed. Any discussion amongst the dais? Any amendments? Any abstentions or nay votes?
Abstaining?
Very good. All voting aye.
Aye.
Please record the vote. Thank you. Those stuck together. I apologize for that. Okay, we will now consider consent resolutions and please read those by title only.
A1, granting a utility easement for maintenance of underground utilities along the city of Casper owned 3 Charles Road. 10A2, authorizing the procurement agreement with Ascent Packaging Inc. for the 2023 5-year solid waste baler bag procurement. 10A3, authorizing the execution of an ARPA grant agreement with the Office of State Lands Investments for the purpose of wastewater treatment plant MCC replacement project. 10A4, authorizing an agreement with Western Plains Logistics for the Baylor Building leachate system. 10A5, authorizing a contract for professional services with WLC Engineering and Surveying for design, bidding, and construction administration services for the Bryan Evansville Road improvements. 10A6, authorizing an agreement with Crown Construction LLC for the Paradise Valley Pool gutter replacement. 10A7, authorizing the fiscal year 2024 contract with the State of Wyoming Office of the Attorney General, Division of Victim Services. 10A8, authorizing the sole source purchase of 30 Model 7 tasers from Proforce Marketing, Inc. 10A9, authorizing the sole source purchase of 6 Model 7 tasers from Proforce Marketing, Inc. 10A10, authorizing transition to a service fee model for cemetery credit and debit card payments. 10A11, authorizing an amendment to the merchant agreement with Drive Payments LLC for the service model for cemetery credit card debit payments. 10A12, authorizing a donation agreement with Visit Casper for the Ford Wyoming Center locker room renovations. And 10A13, authorizing the execution of a grant agreement between the Wyoming Game and Fish Commission and the city of Casper.
Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda items just read.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Counselor Ingebretson, seconded by Counselor Pollock. Mr. City Manager, would you like to comment on any of these items?
No, sir.
I thank you. Any abstentions or nay votes? All voting aye.
Aye.
Please record the vote. You know, Amanda's chuckling right now, since you're having to do all this. Please read the consent minute action titles.
Residential trash containers for use in the Casper Solid Waste Division. 10A2, authorizing the purchase of 2 new bumper pole deck over trailers for use by the Parks Division of the Parks, Recreation, and Public Facilities Department. 10A3, authorizing the purchase of 2 new front loading full eject 40-yard sanitation trucks for use by the Sanitation Division of the Public Services Department. And 10A4, authorizing the purchase of extrication tools from LN Curtis Inc.
Thank you. Just for a statutory note, those are 11A1 through 11A4. Chair would entertain a motion to approve the consent minute action agenda items just read.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Counselor Ingebretson, seconded by Counselor Haskins. Any abstentions or nay votes? All voting aye.
Aye.
Please record the vote.
Passes.
All right. At this time, we ask councilors to bring forward relevant concerns or items of interest. Councilor Bond.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of things. A week ago, Monday, I attended the meeting of the Casper Senior Executive Committee or Casper, I'm sorry, Casper Senior Center Board. And just a heads up there, I am going to have more conversation with the director over there. They seem to be a little concerned about perhaps some changes in funding with the 1 cent funding that they received. There seemed to be some angst and anxiety about the purchase of their supplies of raw food. So I'll try to get more information from the director and bring that back to council if it's appropriate. And then secondly, just to let everybody know, I do have extra tickets. The annual gala and art auction are being held this Friday, the 8th of September at the Nicolaus Museum. Yeah, I do have extra tickets at no cost. I bought to donate. So if there are counselors and significant others who would like to attend, please let me know. I'd be happy to give you a couple tickets. So we're trying to fill the gala. Should be a great event. The theme this year is the Neon Gala, and it's always a great fundraiser for the arts, a great arts event. Lots of local and other artists have donated pieces for the auction, which raises a lot of money for the museum. So again, thank you for your support in the past. That's all.
Thanks, sir. Counselor Kathy?
I want to give a shout out to the police department, not the police department, the fire department. The police department doesn't have boots. The fire department does. And they had the Fill the Boot campaign on Monday, Memorial Day, which is a continuation from the Jerry Lewis telethon for all of you younger people that don't even know who Jerry Lewis was.
Who?
But
Nice try.
Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis. But basically, they were out at various establishments around town collecting money that will all go to the Muscular Dystrophy Association for research and trying to find cures for the neuromuscular diseases. Did I get that right, Chief?
Yes, sir, you did.
Very good. Appreciate you guys being out there. Beyond that, then, attended the CPU meeting last Wednesday, plus the all-day state audit office required training on that Wednesday. And then Thursday was the joint Powers Water Board special meeting. And we have a coffee talk coming up this Thursday morning that will be at 7 o'clock. So I don't expect many more of you to be there. But it's at 7 o'clock up at the Oregon Trail Room in the event center, rather than being at City Hall due to the City Hall being under renovation. And they will be discussing code enforcement policies and proposed changes to them, and will be presented by Justin Scott, our chief building official, and Amber, and I'm going to screw this name up. Jividen from code enforcement. So want the public to know that, and anybody that's involved with that. So that's all I've got.
Thank you, sir. Counselor Haskins?
So like the judge said, our meeting from this Monday was rescheduled to the 11th, as long as Counselor Bond can make that. So I don't actually have anything this week.
He's nodding yes.
Oh, good. We were hopeful.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Pollard?
Thank you. Nothing for me tonight. It's quiet week.
Okay, well, thank you. Counselor Engelbretson?
Just got drug court tomorrow. A lot of my meetings are getting reestablished for September. And then, just a shout out, school is back in session. So watch those school zones.
Certainly. Thank you. Counselor Jensen?
So today, before council, I ran over to a ribbon cutting over at Spectrum up by Kohl's there. They have their new Girl Scout van that that were awarded the grant money for to purchase. So went over and did a ribbon cutting for the Girl Scout STEM van. And it's just a real cool operation of what they do. They go between Montana and Wyoming as the Girl Scouts district up here. And so they travel to all the rural communities and offer a program with this van that's powered by solar. And they have like 3D printing on there and just different stations that they can set up and do that. It's all an effort to get more girls interested in STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math, in order to keep careers and ignite that passion that they have when they're young. So if they want to be a vet or, all that. Anyways, great program. And it was awesome that Spectrum donated them some money. So it's like $15,000 that they gave them.
Wow.
Huge, yeah, it was great. So, if anybody's interested in their schedule, they are gonna be here at Kids Fest, which is this Saturday at the event center. So their van will be there, and then they have a schedule on their Girl Scout website. I think I have a municipal band meeting tomorrow scheduled. We're just waiting on clarification for a location. Like, got it? You're gonna be there? Maybe. And then I did a visit with Metro. I went over to go check on the animals, did like a fly-by-night tour and said hi, got them all barking when they were all soothed by the nice calming music. They were all quiet. As soon as you open that door, they go crazy for attention. But the reason that I did go there was because I went and licensed my dog and became part of that program that they now offer through Hub. And you get your dog license and you get a little QR code, and so scannable with all that information. So did that, I urge the rest of the people to get out there and do that as well. I was the third person. So they need more people to participate in it. Care about your pets and returning them to you. It's a good way to do it. That's about all.
Very cool. Well, thank you. Counselor Gamroth.
Thank you, Mayor. I got a few things. We had a homelessness coalition task force meeting last Wednesday at Central Wyoming Counseling Center. I want to thank them for hosting, and I also wanted to thank Senator Landon for joining as our guest. We, as a group, got the opportunity to talk to him about some of the statewide issues that we have related to homelessness, including the busing of individuals to our city from other municipalities and towns that, you know, potentially don't have those resources. We got a report from Captain Dabney that included, among other things, information about 17 individuals from the Wind River Reservation being sent here on a bus last week. No warning, no handoff, no advance notice, no nothing. Just 17 people from the reservation showing up. And my guess is some of those folks are the individuals that we're struggling with, that they're not eligible or they're not receptive to the services being provided by the shelter, the mission. And so they're kind of in limbo. They're in a weird gray area where we don't really have a appropriate level of service to reach them. You know, this is an ongoing conversation. I know, Mayor, you spoke this morning. You might have something to say about that. I've also been having a lot of dialogue online with people. This is obviously a topic that's taking up, you know, it's a priority for a lot of people. I appreciate the comments from, I believe his name was Dan earlier. You know, in regards to seeing some of the things that he's seeing and feeling unsafe with his family, I can totally empathize with that. I'm seeing things that I didn't used to see here. It makes me uncomfortable. Not so uncomfortable that I don't bring my family downtown. We were there for the Fiesta Wild Festival at David Street last Saturday. We walked all through downtown and I didn't have any issues then. And I've personally not had many issues that would deter me from going downtown. There's still a lot to offer down there, but I totally empathize with people that are seeing a difference. I think that's kind of the general consensus from all the folks I've spoken to and all the meetings I've been a part of. That seems to be the general consensus, is that there is a difference, that we're seeing more homeless people downtown, and the homeless people we are seeing are coming with sort of a different bag of behaviors. I would push back a little bit on the notion, some of this dialogue I've had online with people, many of them are placing the blame at our feet for that. There's certainly things that we as a city can be doing better, and I think we're exploring those through the adjustment of our ordinance and through some of the recommendations that will be coming out of the SIM groups. And so there's absolutely room for improvement, but you know, I guess I would just push back on this notion that somehow City Council or our Casper Police Department or any other agencies of the city are somehow responsible for this or have been encouraging or incentivizing this. I would push back on that all day. I think we're coming at it in a very methodical, cautious way, which I appreciate. And so, you know, obviously it's dialogue that we'll continue to have. So I guess if you have concerns, please feel free to show up and take advantage of public comment like we had some folks do this evening, and just follow this conversation as we learn more and as we kind of enact more initiatives related to it. We had a Public Safety Commission meeting a couple weeks ago. We haven't met for a couple weeks, so I haven't had the opportunity to give the mayor props. He did a really good job representing our concerns as council, and you know, did a great job presenting to that group. I noticed in our bills and claims this week, we had $163,000 in charges to Rocky Mountain Power. If they were to receive their 29% increase that they're asking for, that would jump to 210,000, or an increase of about 47,000. I don't know. My guess is that's not our monthly charges. I haven't seen any statistics yet, but just that one single, bill and claim that we passed, the jump, that 29% jump, equals to real dollars, and it would be very significant. So just thank you to the mayor for speaking at that Public Safety Commission meeting. Casper Police Department recently released an online crime reporting tool for things like lost, stolen property, theft, animal problems, hit and run. So I guess I would just encourage folks, if you didn't see that PSA or any of the local news related to that, look into that, take advantage of that. When you do have those crimes occur, please report those, and it's easy and
Excuse me.
very easy to do now through that online portal. So I'm thankful to see that. I mentioned I went to Fiesta Wyoming Festival at David Street last Saturday. I always really love that event. Brings out a totally different demographic of people that, it's a very different David Street event. They had a mariachi band, traditional Mexican dresses and dancing and stuff. So it's just a very cool event. If you've never been, I'd encourage you to go. Again, it's a very different group of people, so it's always very cool to see that. And then lastly, I just wanted to thank the Natrona County School District students and the Casper Mountain Lions Club for building a bridge on the Braille Trail. It was another project working in coordination with Rob Hill at Pathways. And I love seeing those projects where the students, they're learning real life skills and they're creating meaningful impact, real impact in their community through their schooling. They did all the drafting and design, they did the fabrication, they did the welding, the concrete work, the plank decking of the bridge. I just love seeing those projects because it gives students the opportunity to learn these very useful life skills. It creates positive impact in our community. It's a partnership and collaboration between multiple entities. I just love seeing it. So if you haven't seen that article, I guess I'd go check, encourage you to go check it out. And if you have any resources, time, financial or otherwise, reach out to Rob at Pathways, Casper Mountain Lions Club, or any of these organizations if you want to contribute to projects like this in the future. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Vice Mayor.
Okay, just got a couple things. Just want to remind everybody, I guess next Monday, the 11th, is the 9/11 Memorial Stair Climb. That's going to be at the Fort Wyoming Center, which will be Monday, the 11th, from 6 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's open to the public to join the climb. There's also a floor track for friends and family who are unable to do the stairs. So it's incredibly important for those who served our country as we approach that anniversary. Something I wanted to address very quickly. I think it was stated a little while ago, a comment that if somebody is expresses suicide to you, that you're good, that they're not going to commit suicide. That is probably the furthest thing from the truth. I want to be very, very clear. I want to be very, very clear as not only a mental health provider and professional, number one, and number two, someone that's in mental behavioral health work right now, that you should take every time someone mentions and talks to you about suicide, that they're expressing it, or if they're saying they want to kill themselves, you take that seriously, and you make sure you never leave that person alone and you get them the help that they need. So just want to make sure that's very clear. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next Wednesday, the 13th, is the Boys and Girls Club breakfast. For those of you that are going to attend, I do still have some tickets. If any of you want to come up. It's so early. My gosh. Speaking of early, I got up very early this morning at 3 o'clock, and I started a run on interviews with national news syndications out of New York, Los Angeles, just everywhere. People very concerned about our homeless situation here, which is odd to me because the city of New York has over 100,000 homeless and we have 200. But I think what is capturing people across the country is that we are such a remote, quiet mountain town full of awesome people, and we have horrific winters. Why? The question was posed to me by every one of those interviewers: why would homeless people come to Casper, Wyoming? And my only answer that I could come up with is, I think we're not accustomed to this. We're not used to it. So they were able to get away with a lot of stuff they can't get away with in other places. And my comment to them was, we want to be compassionate. We want to find mental health and substance abuse ways to help these people, because that's homelessness is systemic from those. That's where it's coming from. And until we figure out how to tackle those, we're going to be in this situation. I have talked to several communities that have faced this and gone through it. And one of the common misnomers out there is that you cannot arrest your way out of this. And they have data, which I'm going to collect and distribute, and they say you absolutely can. And the reason they're thinking this is because there are two real demographics when it comes to homeless. One of them is the one that's truly homeless because of their circumstances or whatever it is that's befell them. And they're coming to our shelter and they're getting the help they need. They're getting the education, they're getting job training, they're being put to work, they're helping get into homes, and they're becoming productive members of our community. Then you have the other demographic that is mentally ill or suffering from substance abuse, or simply just don't want to be part of a thriving community. They are anti-social. Thank you. They don't want to fall into social norm, and they are the ones that are creating the havoc. They're the ones that are creating the problems for us. Those ones, the criminal element, we are working on getting this ordinance together so that we can arrest them and we can jail them. And they have assured me, when you jail that particular human being, when they get out, they don't come back. They don't want to be in jail. They just want to go and do what they do. So I think we are on the right path. I think we have some great minds in the room on that coalition team that are coming up with some ways to help tackle the mental health and the substance abuse. What that looks like, I don't know. Everything takes money, as you all know. And this isn't a pitch for anything other than when we come to you, the community, and we ask for those monies and we lay out why we need them, please give those a lot of thought, because it's important to me. This is where my children live, my grandchildren, and our community is all I care about. I don't have a hidden agenda. I never have. I'm not running for the re-election. I don't need your vote. I just need you to understand that we are up here working our tails off to try to make this a better place for all of us to live. And that's literally where our hearts lies. So with that said, even after 11 interviews today, and I think I have several more tomorrow and Thursday, I found time to get down to Laramie and watch our Wyoming Cowboys do their thing against a nationally ranked opponent, Texas Tech. And what a game to be at, and to watch 30,000 people rush that field. It was incredible. There's another home game this Saturday against Portland State, who lost 81-7 to Oregon. So if you want to go down and watch Wyoming really put it on somebody, I think this would be the weekend to do it, because then we have the University of Texas coming up after that. So we're going to need to do what we can. But go Cowboys.
I'm gonna need you to take that back and not jinx them. You were wrong about the last game.
Ray was right, though. Ray said Wyoming was going to win by 3, and I went home and told my wife, I said, Ray obviously doesn't know football, right? Because we were
really close to right.
They were favored by 14, and Ray smoked it. So what's the score this week?
Who are they playing, Portland?
Portland State.
I bet they beat Portland State by 14.
Oh, I'll bet they beat them by 40. I'll bet they beat them by 40. But
We'll put that in the press. No, don't. Please don't. Do not put that in the press.
All right. I want to thank you all. Thank you. Bookie Ray. Oh, goodness. A notice of an executive session to take place at this date and time during the meeting was given. We have a matter to discuss regarding potential litigation and personnel. Therefore, the chair would entertain a motion to adjourn into executive session. At the conclusion of that executive session, to reconvene this regular meeting, we will have a motion after executive at the end of the executive session when we re-adjourn the regular meeting.
So moved.
Moved by Councilor Kathy.
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Haskin. There being a majority of councilors present and a motion to adjourn into executive session has been moved and seconded. The motion requires a 2/3 majority council present. Any abstentions or nay votes? All voting aye.
Aye.
Councilor Bond? Okay, very good. Please record the vote. Thank you. A greater than 2/3 majority of the council present voted in favor of the motion. We are hereby adjourned into executive session. We will take about a 30-second break to clear the room, and we'll just get after it and get home tonight.